Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys,
Thank you for joining us for another lesson this week.
we're back.
We're back. If you would be so kind to please give us a follow and share on social media. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram by searching for the Paranormal Lovers in the search bar. You can also search for that on YouTube and watch videos of these episodes, so let your friends know. If you would like to support the podcast, we have a couple ways you can do so. The first, we have a merch store over at theparanormallovers.threadless.com, and we also have a Patreon. We currently have a sale going on our merch store that ends this afternoon because this is going to come out on Monday for $14 t-shirts and up to 35% off everything else. Over on Patreon, we have one $5 tier where you get early access to unedited videos of both shows, as well as 2 stickers a month, which, sorry to our one Patreon that I haven't done that. Thankfully, they understand we had a hurricane. One will be from our merch store, and the other one will be handmade by Ian, and you might occasionally just get some random shit because I like playing with my new Cricut. So,
random.
And don't forget, once we get up to 20 Patreons, we will be adding in a bi-weekly family movie night to the perks. And lastly, if you have any personal stories, be they paranormal, true crime, or historical, if you would like to make a topic request, please send us an email at theparanormallovers@yahoo.com. You know, I think that's a stem for you.
Yeah,
Messing with your mustache. You're always, like when you drive and stuff, you're just like, look like a little evil villain over there.
Then like when I shave it, I like
You
reach
look
to
like a
go do it,
12-year-old.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
where'd it go?
You're like, oh, I got a little something right there. It's fine. All right. You have anything else for us this week before I get into this crazy case?
Yeah, if you guys would like to donate to flood victims from Hurricane Helene, then we have on our merch shop 2 shirts that Felicia designed. And all of the proceeds that we get from there will be going to the Beloved Foundation in Asheville to help out with the flood victims.
Yeah. And they might go to some other organizations or just some local families that need help, but it's going to go to flood relief. So,
yeah, we're going to donate.
I'll go buy some of those, please.
Yeah.
They need it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, this week we have a crazy story for you.
What you got?
At least it's one of the first times, at least that I know of, that law enforcement was actually proven to have used excessive force.
Yeah.
And an extremist family actually won against the federal government.
Nice.
This week we are going to look at the case of Ruby Ridge, in which U.S. Marshals, in the course of serving a warrant, murdered 2 fairly innocent people.
Right.
And actually, the first time I'd ever heard of this was on Criminal Minds. Let's see, was it Jason? Yeah, Gideon was like, I was at Ruby Ridge, and this cannot be another Ruby Ridge. And I was like, what the fuck happened at Ruby Ridge? We've heard of Waco. You know, everybody's heard of Waco.
Yeah.
I had never really heard of Ruby Ridge, and I didn't know anything about it until I started looking into it for this episode. So,
yeah, I don't know much about it myself, but I've heard of it.
It's fucked up. Gonna go ahead and do a warning for death of a child, trauma involving a child,
right,
and death of an animal. So,
damn.
Yeah, that right there pisses me off.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about my puppies.
I know both me and Felicia care more about animals than we do about people. So
And I know people like,
that's
oh, that's
just
real fucked up. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Because humans have a mouth, they have words, they can talk.
yeah,
We feel the same way for children and for disabled people who are nonverbal,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know? But if you have a voice and you can tell somebody that you're hurt or getting hurt, I don't know. I've been there, so I understand why it doesn't always happen. I'm not judging anybody for that.
Right.
I'm just explaining why we care more for animals than adult humans. Okay.
Yeah.
So to start this story, we will go way back to January 3rd, 1948, when Randall Claude Weaver was born to Clarence and Wilma Weaver in Viscla. Nope. Villisca. I should have known that because that's where the axe murders, the Villisca House axe murders took place.
Mm.
Iowa. Weaver had 3 siblings, and his parents were extreme Christians who spent time church hopping, as none of the denominations were quite extreme enough for them. Weaver attended Jefferson High School before enrolling at Iowa Central Community College. He spent 2 years there before he dropped out to join the military during the Vietnam War. He spent 3 years serving at Fort Bragg right here in North Carolina before being discharged as a sergeant.
Mm.
Oh, Fort Bragg, we got a whole bunch of them up here, stationed right over here at
Yep.
the event center, just camping out.
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all
See
are
him
like
every day.
2 weeks too late, but thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
After he was discharged, he would try to claim that he had been a Green Beret, but according to his discharge papers, he had never been a member of any Special Forces unit. In 1970, while home on leave, Weaver met Victoria Vicky Jordison. He introduced himself as Pete, and 1 month after his discharge, he and Vicky got married at the First Congregational Church in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Weaver would re-enroll at the University of Northern Iowa, but only for 1 semester. He then got a good paying job at a John Deere factory. I can imagine that's actually a pretty damn good paying job.
I bet.
Vicky worked as a secretary before leaving the workforce to become a homemaker. Both Weaver and Vicky were both Christians, and after reading the late great Planet Earth, the couple got even more extreme in their beliefs. Vicky in particular believed that the apocalypse was imminent. The couple saw civilization as being corrupt and made plans to survive the incoming end of the world. In 1978, Vicky began having dreams of living on a mountaintop to ride it out. To do so, they traded a truck for 20 acres of land in Boundary County, Idaho. They began to sell off all their possessions. Then they spent $5,000 and built a cabin on the land. They also took time to visit with the Amish to learn how to live off the grid. Here, the family was to live out the end of times according to the Old Covenant laws, believing they were the true Israelites.
All right.
So it was not just the impending apocalypse that the family believed in. The Weavers were white supremacists through and through. Randy began attending meetings of the Aryan Nations. From Wikipedia, quote, Aryan Nations is a North American anti-Semitic, neo-Nazi, and white supremacist hate group. In 2001, the FBI classified Aryan Nations as a terrorist threat. In a review of terrorist organization, the RAND Corporation called it the first truly nationwide terrorist network in the United States and Canada, end quote.
Wow.
So yeah, well, y'all are all running around here like, oh, black folks and drugs and crime, and or like brown folks and drugs and crime and blah 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 blah. Yeah. One of the worst terrorist organizations is homegrown folks.
Worse than juggalos.
Juggalos ain't got shit on Aryan Nations except for they will fight them to the death.
Yeah, they will.
And if you think I'm joking, call a black person the N-word around a juggalo and see how well it ends for you. The Weavers did not endear themselves with their neighbors, and in 1984, Randy ended up going to court with their neighbor Terry Kinninson over a land deal. Kinninson did not only lost the case, but also had to pay for Weaver's court cost. Feeling petty, Kinninson wrote to the FBI, the Secret Service, and the county sheriff, alleging that Weaver had made death threats against several prominent people, including President Reagan and and Pope John Paul II. So that's
So
fucked up.
wait, they were making. So they were really religious, but they were making death threats against the Pope.
I don't think he was, and they were very staunch Christians, but Pope is Catholic. Some Catholics don't consider themselves Christians. Some Christians don't consider Catholics Christians.
So weird.
I don't know that they were actually making threats. They probably were like, oh, these motherfuckers need to die. But I think it was more his neighbor was pissed off that he lost the court case.
Right.
And so he was like, I'm going to go say some shit.
Right.
And here's the thing. You can't, well, I was going to say you can't get in trouble for saying, like, I wish the president would get killed.
Right.
Right. You can't get in trouble for that. You can get in trouble for saying, I am going to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's sticky.
Yeah.
These threats were investigated in 1985. On February 12th of that year, both adult Weavers were interviewed by a group made up of 2 FBI agents, 2 Secret Service agents, the county sheriff, and one of his investigators. They questioned him about the threats, rumors of his involvement with the Aryan nations, and rumors of a large cache of firearms at his property. Randy denied all of the allegations and was released with no charges. During their interview, Randy was questioned about Frank Cumnick.
All right.
I really need to start reading over this. So, like, I'm not shocked when I actually have to say the words out loud. And it's K-U-M, but that's what it is.
Cumnick.
It's probably more like Kumnick or something, but
Cumnick.
Who is known to associate with Aryan Nation members. Weaver claimed that neither of them was a member of Aryan Nations, but that Frank was associated with the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord.
Sounds like a metal band.
I'm saying it out loud. I want to like rhyme. The Covenant, the Sword, the Arm of the Lord. The Covenant, the Sword, the Arm of the Lord. The CSA was, quote, a far-right survivalist anti-government militia which advocated Christian identity and was active in the U.S. during the 1970s and early 1980s, end quote. During a meeting at the World Aryan Congress, which, like, what? The World Aryan Congress? The what?
Oh, man.
Weaver was introduced to Gus Magisano,
Goose,
who acted as a weapons dealer to motorcycle gangs.
Goose.
What Weaver didn't know was that Gus was actually Kenneth Fadley, an undercover ATF agent.
Oh, shit.
And I'm probably saying his last name wrong, too. I'm sorry. I say it the way it looks.
Right.
Fadley was pretending to be in need of weapons, and wouldn't you know it, Weaver could sell him 2 sawed-off shotguns.
Hell
which,
yeah.
if you're not aware, shotguns have to be a certain length.
Yeah.
And if you cut them down shorter than that, that's illegal.
Yeah.
And also, you don't want to do that because I once shot a shotgun that had a short barrel on it. Was not sawed off. It was like a removable barrel. The kickback on that motherfucker and the noise, and I was wearing the headphone.
Yeah, some of the weight there on the shotguns to help with the kickback.
On tape, Weaver was recorded saying that he could even get Fadley several illegal shotguns a week. In November of 1989, after spending much time together in and out of meetings, Weaver accused Gus of being an informant. He would later state he was tipped off by Rico V. Gus's handler, Herb Byerly, told him to have no more contact with Weaver, but unknown to Weaver and probably Gus, Rico was an FBI informant and would end up outing Gus to the Aryan Nation security. And I have no idea if he died or not. I don't know.
Huh.
In 1990, the ATF attempted to use the gun charges to get Weaver to flip on members of the Aryan Nation, but he refused. He said, and I quote, I ain't gonna be no snitch. So, So he would end up being indicted on charges of making and possessing illegal weapons. When the ATF filed their charges, they alleged that Weaver was a bank robber with a lengthy rap sheet. This was actually to be proven. This was actually proven to be false, as Randy had no charges of that kind, nor was he ever looked at for any such robberies. So they're already starting lying. He's a bank
Right.
robber. Motherfucker, his name's Randy Weaver, not John Dillinger. The fuck? He's like, I just want to live out here in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
Like, just leave me alone. Back at home, hella religious Vicky would go on to give birth to 4 children: Sarah, Samuel, Rachel, and Elisheba. Elisheba, all with the biblical names. They were all
Right.
homeschooled by Vicky, which I'm sure you can imagine was
Yeah.
not to say now to say this, not just because I think extremists are crazy, but because of what she did. What this letter, this dumb bitch. After Randy was charged by the ATF, Vicky, in her infinite wisdom, wrote a letter to the at the time U.S. Attorney Maurice O. Ellsworth, quote, addressing him as servant of the Queen of Babylon and writing, the stink of your lawless government has reached heaven, the abode of Yahweh, our Yeshua, and whether we live or whether we die, we will not bow to your evil commandments, end quote.
Right on.
She was not well, and I'm going to say she was probably not the best person to be teaching them kids.
Yeah.
But even then, she didn't deserve what happens to her.
Yeah.
None of them did.
Right.
As much as they may discuss me for their personal views, being ignorant is not a valid reason to do what happened.
Yeah.
So Weaver was charged, and he and Vicky were arrested when they stopped to help undercover officers who were on the side of the road. A trial date was set, which he missed. This led to a bench warrant for his arrest being issued. Now, why he missed his court date is a little complicated. I think he did have the choice to go, but his original date was set for February 19th. On January 22nd, Weaver contacted his probation officer, who did not have the file on hand, so told him he would get back to him. He, the PO, did not have anything other than an address for Weaver. Weaver was given a public defender, Everett Hoffmeister, who attempted to contact Weaver several times by mail but never got a response. On February 5th, the date was changed from the 19th to the 20th because of a federal holiday. While letters were sent to the defense and the prosecution, Weaver was never sent a letter.
Mm.
When a letter was sent to Weaver from his PO, the date was listed as March 20th instead of February 20th.
Huh.
His attorney sent him a letter on February 8th letting him know the correct date, and also contacted several people who knew the Weavers to try and get in contact with him. He claimed that he was never able to get a hold of him.
Hmm.
After the warrant was issued, a reporter contacted the U.S. Probation Office to ask if it was possible that he had missed the due date due to miscommunication. The Marshals and Weaver's lawyer were made aware of this issue, but the judge refused to cancel the warrant. The Marshals agreed to wait until the date of March 20th to see if Weaver would show up in court, but the U.S. Attorney's Office convened a grand jury on March 14th, and without letting them know of the miscommunication, the jury issued an indictment for failure to appear in court.
Hmm.
So, just a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people fucked up right there.
It's like a typo for one. And then
Like the tuck market.
yeah.
Like,
And then for two, you got to let somebody know.
right. So the U.S. Marshals were sent in to apprehend Weaver, but he refused to surrender himself to the Marshals and holed up in his home with his family and close friend Kevin Harris. It is believed that the inconsistent letters from his attorney and PO fostered a feeling of distrust for the system. He was suspicious that he would not get a fair trial if he turned himself in. His lawyer confirmed this when he told Weaver that if he lost the trial, he would also lose his land, leaving Vicky homeless, and the kids would get put into the foster care system.
Damn.
Why the fuck would you tell somebody like that
Right.
something like that?
Yeah.
The last thing these motherfuckers are going to tolerate is their land and their family
Yeah.
being disrupted because no, why would you do that?
It's like the rumor going around that FEMA's going to take people's property. Like,
It's not even FEMA. It's
why
fucking,
would they do that?
It's investors and shit you got to watch out for. The government doesn't give a shit right now about that.
Well, I mean, the only reason they're taking people's properties, the government, not FEMA, is because the creek actually came and moved and took their property.
Yeah,
because you can't build back on the creek.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. From March
People are
until
crazy.
April of 1991, Weaver negotiated with 3 separate U.S. Marshals. He did so through neighbors. They would like talk to them, and then they would go talk to him, and then he would tell them, and then they'd go back.
Oh, the old password game.
Yeah. Telephone. Before the Assistant U.S. Attorney Ron Howen stopped the negotiations. The U.S. Attorney decided all communications must go through Weaver's attorney, but Weaver refused to talk to him. Now, there was an incident in April of 1992 that got a lot of coverage. Not that I fucking remember because I was 6. A helicopter had been hired by Geraldo Rivera. Thank you. I did the same thing when I saw his name pop up. Geraldo. All right. For his show, Now It Can Be Told, to do a flyover of the Weaver property. After the flyover, media reports began coming in that the chopper had been shot at while flying over the property.
Oh, geez.
Some people did try to use this as justification for what would transpire, but it was found to be completely false.
Yeah.
Of course, Weaver denied ever shooting at the chopper, but what's more is that a marshal who was on the property setting up surveillance also stated that he heard no shots fired at the chopper that he could see flying over the property.
Right.
Even more evidence of Weaver's innocence for this incident was the statement made by the pilot, Richard Weiss, also denying any shots were ever fired at the chopper.
I wonder how many times that Geraldo was like, I got shot at, and they really didn't.
Right. So there's 2 lies.
Yeah.
But this didn't seem to stop those in control at the U.S. Attorney's Office. If anything, they just attempted to bulldoze over the facts as presented by eyewitnesses to the incident and still claim that Weaver shot at the chopper twice. They actually said Weaver, Vicky, and Harris all went out there and shot at the chopper twice, but they said it was shot at by like 2 bullets. But I'm like, how 3 people shooting 2 bullets? Are you telling me they shot at it 6 times? There were 6 bullets flying by it and they missed it all 6 times? Because you're a terrible fucking shot. God dang, somebody hit it. But so while I'm obviously not a fan of Weaver, there's very clear evidence that some of those in command over this operation were looking for any reason to go after this family.
Yeah, it sounds like they were just pissing people off and they wanted them gone.
That's exactly what I feel like. I completely understand how the Weavers and others who choose this path in life feel the way they do about the government. If you go against them, and especially in such a public way, they will wipe you out. Laws and freedoms be damned.
Yeah, never trust the government.
Y'all head over to the paranormal lovers.threadless. Nope. indigenous-tales.threadless.com and get you one of them trust the government t-shirts.
Yep.
Got me one. Still a little chunky to wear it, but I'm getting there. On August 21st, marshals were getting a lay of the land on the family's property to find a good place to arrest Weaver away from the house when the family dog Stryker began to investigate something. Sammy, the Weaver's son, and family friend Kevin went out to follow the dog, hoping he had picked up on the scent of a game animal. It was the sound of a neighbor starting up their truck that got the dog's attention and tuned it to the recon team in the woods. When Stryker came out of the woods and exposed the marshal's location, he was shot to death. Marshals and Harris would both state that Sammy, the 14-year-old, was armed, raised his weapon, and said, I actually didn't write this in here, but he said, "You shot my dogs, you son of a bitch," and shot at him, which, like, I would probably also.
Yeah.
shoot at him. Because
Right.
as we'll see later, there was no. They claimed that they were like, stop, deputy marshal, blah 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 blah. But then again, it was just like a bunch of dudes in camo hiding in the woods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, let's see. Marshals and Harris would both state that Sammy, the 14-year-old, was armed and had raised his weapon and took a shot at them after seeing his dog shot dead. However, it would also be proved that Sammy was killed by a shot in the back as he ran away. Kevin fired back at the marshals, hitting Deputy Marshal William Deegan in the chest, killing him. This led to a shootout in the woods, but only Sammy Stryker and Marshal Deegan were killed during this incident. This led to the hostage rescue team of the FBI getting involved. So yeah, they shot his fucking dog.
And then shot his kid.
Yeah. 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 And honestly, if I was like following my dog through the woods and all these dudes like busted out of a fucking bush and my dog went after him and they shot my dog, I'd probably also shoot back at him
Right.
in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Now, this team was supposed to follow a specific quote unquote rules of engagement.
Right.
These rules, according to a report after the siege, the REO are as follows. I messed all that up. Anyways, 1. If any adult in the area around the cabin is observed with a weapon after the surrender announcement had been made, deadly force could and should be used to neutralize the individual. If any adult male is observed with a weapon prior to the announcement, deadly force can and should be employed if the shot can be taken without endangering any children. If compromised by any dog, the dog can be taken out. Any subjects other than Randy Weaver, Vicky Weaver, Kevin Harris presenting threat of death or grievous bodily harm, FBI rules of deadly force apply. Deadly force can be utilized to prevent the death or grievous bodily injury to oneself or that of another, end quote. Now, when these rules were given to the agents on site, some of them felt like this was a green light to just shoot on site.
Right.
Keep in mind, they were also notified when the rules of engagement were modified to change adult to adult male so that it would actually exclude Vicky, as she was not involved with the earlier shooting that killed that marshal.
Right.
What's wild, though, is several agents felt that these rules were a little much. One of them, when he was told the rules, literally said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, what? They were like, many were taken aback by the rules and preferred to stick to the standard deadly force policy. They felt it was too excessive.
Yeah.
Well, that's not at all what fucking happened. This actually triggered me a little bit more than Sammy did. I don't know why, but I can't imagine it didn't fuck up some brain chemistry for this kid.
Yeah.
All of this would happen in the first 2 days of the 11-day standoff. FBI sniper Lon Horichi, I guess taking the rules of engagement as a green light to shoot on sight, saw Randy going out to the guest cabin to visit the body of his son Sammy when he shot him in the back. Weaver was out there with Harris and his 16-year-old daughter Sarah, and as they ran back towards the house, the sniper took another shot. This shot hit Harris in the chest, exiting his body and hitting Vicky, who was standing behind the door holding their 10-month-old daughter Alicia. The second shot would be highly investigated and criticized. 1, for there being no call for surrender after the first shot was fired, which was standard procedure at the time. The rules of engagement that were put in place for this operation themselves were also condemned for this reason. 2, Horichi was criticized for taking the second shot when he did not know if someone was standing behind the door.
Right.
On the 23rd, they attempted to contact Weaver by bullhorn but got no response. On the 24th, FBI Deputy Assistant Director Danny Colson sent this memo before he was notified of Vicky's death. Quote, "Something to consider. Charge against Weaver is bullshit." Just literally his first line in this memo.
Wow.
Charge against Weaver is bullshit. And it was actually redacted, but like, if you have bull, you know shit follows.
Yeah.
No one saw Weaver do any shooting. Or 2, no one saw Weaver do any shooting. 3, Vicky has no charges against her. 4, Weaver's defense. He ran down the hill to see what the dog was barking at. Some guys in camis, camouflage, saw his dog, started shooting at him, killed his son. Harris did the shooting. He is in pretty strong legal position, end quote. So, yeah, it's pretty bad when, like, that dude's like, "Oh, this is bullshit."
Yeah.
In the end, it was a neighbor who brought the siege to an end. Bo Gritz, with a Z, not with an S, was able to talk to Weaver and Harris, and although Harris was asking Weaver for a mercy killing, Gritz was able to talk him into surrendering on August 30th. He was then flown via Air Force medical chopper to Sacred Heart Medical Center in Spokane, Washington. Gritz was also able to get Weaver to allow Vicky's body to be removed with Gritz's supervision. The next day, Weaver and his children surrendered. Weaver was arrested and taken by military chopper to an airport, then flown to Boise, Idaho. He was given a physical examination, then sent to Ada County Jail. Harris was also arrested, although he was still in serious condition at the hospital. The Weaver girls were given over to family members, although federal officials were considering charging Sarah as an adult since she was 16, but no charges were ever brought against her. Which, like, good, because she was a fucking child.
Yeah.
And literally, people are like, oh, well, even though you're a child at a certain age, you have to know the difference between right and wrong. Not if you live out in the middle of the fucking boondocks. You're never allowed to leave your house. And the only people you have contact with is your family.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell you different?
Yeah.
Like, who is there to tell you different?
Right.
Weaver and Harris were facing a long list of charges in court. Their case was presided over by Judge Edward Lodge in U.S. District Court in April 1933. Weaver's attorney called no witnesses, and his defense was to discredit the government's witnesses and evidence. In July, Weaver was acquitted of all but 2 charges, one for missing his original court date and violating the conditions of his bail. He received 18 months in prison and a $10,000 fine. With time served and good behavior, Weaver was released from jail in December of 1993. Harris's attorney was able to get him acquitted of all charges. However, 5 years later, Boundary County prosecutor Denise Woodbury attempted to have him charged with the murder of Marshall Deegan, but the charges were thrown out due to double jeopardy since he had already been acquitted of those charges in federal court.
Yeah.
After the trials, the Department of Justice created the Ruby Ridge Task Force to investigate the incident. This report heavily criticized how this was handled, mainly the rules of engagement, which they deemed unconstitutional. This was backed up in 1995 when the Senate Subcommittee on Terrorism, Technology, and Government Information held a 14-day hearing about the allegations of misconduct. They also found that the rules of engagement had been unconstitutional.
Sure.
So it's really bad.
Yeah.
Like when the federal government's like, oh yeah, shit, they fucked up.
Yeah.
Y'all can't do that. You gotta be sneaky about this shit. Okay.
Yeah, because they usually won't admit to it.
Unless they're black. Then you can just shoot them in their bed. It's fine. In October of 95, Treasury and Justice adopted new policies with concern to the use of deadly force. The major change was there had to be, quote, a reasonable belief of an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury in order to use deadly force.
Right.
End quote. Michael Cahoe, the chief of the FBI's Violent Crimes Section, pled guilty to obstruction of justice in 1997. He had destroyed a report that had been critical of the agent's actions at Ruby Ridge. He was sentenced to 18 months and received a $4,000 fine. The Weaver family sued the federal government for $200 million for the death of Vicky and Samuel. It was settled out of court to the tune of $3.1 million, with each girl getting $1 million and Randy getting $100,000. One DOJ official was quoted saying that he believed that if the case had gone to trial, the Weavers would have won the full amount. Which, like, bet. I will remember that, stick it in the back of my head. Make sure you gotta fucking go to court.
Right.
As for Harris, the government really did not want to give money to someone who killed a federal agent. But in the end, his attorney pushed, and Harris would be awarded with $380,000 in September of 2000. Prosecutor Woodbury filed manslaughter charges against FBI sniper Horuchi in 1990, but in 1998, the case was moved to federal court as the defendant was acting as a federal agent. These charges would be dropped on grounds of sovereign immunity. I hate that bullshit.
Right.
This ruling was reversed in 2001, but the new county prosecutor, Brett Benson, decided to drop the charges. He said, if we pursue these charges, it will impede the healing in this county. And it's like, no, motherfucker, whatever. Randy and Sarah wrote a book which was published in 1998 titled The Federal Siege at Ruby Ridge. The whole family would go on to move to Montana, where Sarah refound her faith in the Christian religion. In 2012, she was quoted saying she forgave the agents who killed her mother and brother. Randy Reaver would pass away at the age of 74 on May 11th, 2022.
Wow.
He only died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
After the mess that was Ruby Ridge and Waco, there was a new wave of people getting into the off-the-grid sovereign citizen movement. This was the most obvious when on April 19th, 1995, when Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nicholas detonated a bomb outside of the Alfred P. Murrell Federal Building, killing 168 people, including 19 children and babies from the building's daycare center.
Yeah.
Their motivation was anger over how these two families were targeted by the federal government for just living their lives. Which Waco was a little more rapey, pedo-y.
Yeah.
Gross.
Right.
Still real fucked up how it was handled, but it's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And while I might not agree with most of their ideals, I do agree that the government does not have the right to tell people how to live. While I would like stronger gun control laws, I don't believe the government should be able to take anyone's firearms away. And as far as I found in this research, they didn't beat or abuse their kids. They may be a little kooky, but like they just wanted to live out their lives.
Yeah.
Out in the woods. We have people like that live
there ain't
here.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, we have people like that live here. They just want to be able to live without Big Brother coming in and telling them what to do with their land, property, and even family.
Right.
Like, look at it this way. If you think that women should be able to have abortions and have control over their own health care, then the same should be said for people that want to just live off the grid and live off the land and do their own thing. As long as they're not hurting anybody, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Leave them alone.
I totally agree. I had a friend who had that happened to him actually. He was on some drugs and the cops came and they proceeded to handcuff him and then let him run because they needed a reason to do what they did. So as soon as he ran, because he was on drugs, he didn't know what he was doing, and so when he run, they beat him to death. So
yeah. Okay. So I think as long as these people keep their very wrong ideas to themselves, we're good.
Right.
Let them live as long as they're not hurting anybody or burning crosses.
Yeah.
Leave them alone. So that, folks, is the Siege of Ruby Ridge. What do you think about that, Bill?
Like I said, I can kind of relate to these people because I did have a friend that was in a similar situation.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And don't trust the government, people. Like, they don't.
You and I have kind of argued about that thing a little bit because he was on drugs. And,
yeah, he was
fighting the police.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was trying to fight them, but
My stepdad did the same thing. He got pulled over by cops once drunk driving and
Yeah.
fought like 5 of them motherfuckers before they could get handcuffs on him. And you know how he ain't no bigger than you,
Yeah, he's a small little dude.
but he's Mexican and he's
That's the ones you gotta
strong.
watch. These small little guys.
I remember my mom telling me, like, one of the sheriff's deputies came up to her in court, was like, just wanted to let you know that little man's strong. He gave us a good fight.
Yep.
She was like, yep, that's what you get, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I'm sure Ben did too, but it's just different.
It
You
is,
know?
and it's still not right that like he
No.
died. Like it's no different. Ben dying or Sonia Massey dying or George Floyd dying
Yeah.
or Trayvon Martin dying or Breonna Thomas Taylor or like shall I go on and on and
So
on and on? I could sit here all day.
none of them were rightfully murdered.
No, Trayvon Martin was murdered with a fucking pack of Skittles in his pocket,
Oh man,
wearing a fucking hoodie.
that sucks.
Like with a fucking pack of Skittles in his pocket, Bill.
That makes me angry.
You don't remember that? George
Mm-mm.
Zimmerman?
Mm-mm.
He was like an off-duty cop or some shit in Florida, and like Trayvon was just like walking home from the store, and he fucking shot him.
Yeah, he like tried to stop him or some shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
which
He was
really,
like 14, I think.
in law, you really can't stop anybody from walking around anyways, because they're just walking. They're not committing any crimes.
No, you sure can't. So yeah, it's wait until you find out about the kid that was murdered, and he just wanted to play his clarinet.
Yeah,
Like,
it's horrible.
yeah, it's being black and being off the grid will get you put on a list in this country.
That's why if you're a law enforcement officer, like I know you don't get paid a lot, and you know that sucks. You need to be paid more, in my opinion. But at the same time, I'll hold you to a higher
Standard.
and respect as someone else, because you do have to make those hard choices of whether or not to a enforce a law that you know you might not agree with, and b like you have to make that split decision that quick of, hey, is this kid holding a gun or is he holding the clarinet? Like,
Right.
you need to be able to know that.
I get it. It's not an easy job, but I also feel like if you can't take 5 seconds to go through that thought process
Yeah.
before you just pull out your gun and shoot because you were scared.
Yeah.
If you're going to be scared, don't be a fucking cop.
No.
Okay? It is a dangerous job.
Yeah.
I had Quinn tell me one day, we were talking about that cop that got shot a few months ago in Dallas. He
Yeah.
said that is the scariest thing for cops is sitting at a red light.
Yeah.
Because people will just come up and shoot you.
Yeah.
Like it's like their favorite thing. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in that. That's not cool. I don't appreciate the job. I don't appreciate the system that has them in place, and we need to fix it and do better.
Yeah.
But these are still people that have a life.
Yeah.
And they just want to go live their lives. And if you as a cop just want to go live your life, I don't know, maybe let other people just live their lives.
Yeah.
And if you think weed rules are stupid, they are. Don't enforce it.
Yeah.
Okay?
For sure.
Because weed laws are stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid. All right, guys. Well, that's Ruby Ridge. Remember, this is the last day for the $14 t-shirt sale. So go over there and get you some merch. Give us a like, follow, share, and review and all that good jazz. And we will see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.